let's collect some feedback. How did you experience that? Any?
I was just telling Sam how I feel like sometimes I'm able to access it better, but today I feel like I couldn't get below my head and kind of more accessing like feeling that openness with the forgive myself until I started to like just picture myself as a little girl. I've done a lot of inner child work, and that's what seems to help me melt my judgments in the moment of others and of myself. And so I felt like I had to visualize myself as this tender little girl, and I'm judging her for that in order to experience anything down here. Otherwise, it just felt like I'm just saying words, and it just like doesn't do anything for me. And that's why I think I've been partly averse sometimes to this work, because it feels like work. It's like, okay. Sometimes I just simply visualize and feel my little girl, and that's all I do. I don't do like the document type stuff for forgiveness and creating. I don't know if anyone else does that, but like otherwise it's hard for me to feel like the words mean anything sometimes. I just stay up here with I forgive myself or judge myself. It doesn't feel like I'm feeling anything. The language itself for me. Maybe it's just because I'm very active up here. But that's how it works for me a little bit more, I think, where I felt like kind of tender and more able to just find Sam, like almost like what would I want that little girl to believe? Like if she's my little girl, I don't want her to grow up thinking that nothing works for her or this and that or whatever unhelpful me. So, and then I was able to come.
And what was whenever that happened, did something open up for you then?
Once I did the visualizing my little girl and feeling her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did come up with some things. Yeah, where I felt, I just don't, I guess maybe I'm overthinking, like, needs to be some kind of like shot of lightning for myself. It's more just like, no, this is true, and this is more pleasurable, this is more helpful, and this is more.
Whatever works for you, if you're able to find a way to access that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share with you that I was at my mum's recently, and I came across a photograph of myself, age 4, and I kept it, and it sits beside my laptop now, and what I have found is I don't want to judge that little boy, and so when I find myself judging myself, that photograph is a huge help to me, a huge benefit to me in terms of, well, I can't judge him. What I'm judging is some sort of vague sense of, but he is me. His eyes are my eyes, and so if that's what enables you to access the space to create something new in terms of the language that you want to use in terms of I'm this, I'm not that.
Yeah.
Use it. Absolutely use that.
I just was curious if there's something else that you feel like could be helpful, because I do feel like I have a lot of practice with the inner child stuff when I have a picture of my little girl on my phone and I see it, and it reminds me of my kind of innate qualities that helps me remember who I am in my essence. But for this process, is there another way that you or any other people have trouble sometimes accessing it below than that kind of like more on a heart level? Is there something else? I guess meditation, deep breathing, maybe before you enter it, so you're kind of in your body already. But,
Well, I think, it sounds like you. I was going to say it sounds like you have something that's working, that could work for you.
Yeah.
And there may be. I'm not saying there's not other ideas. There may be other ideas in the room. But if you've done a lot of inner child work and you have access to that inner child,
that's
I would.
A lesser way to do it.
No. I would play to that.
Okay. That really was what has worked for me most.
So give yourself permission
to just keep doing it.
to do that, to use that as your mechanism to.
Because I know even when I did this, like John Patrick Morgan's event in San Monica last November. I feel like when I'm in front of everyone, it makes it even harder because then I'm kind of like feeling like I'm on the spot. So it's like I don't even know how useful it would be, like if I were to come up and do it with you. So, but like when I was outside by myself, it was hard for a while at first, and then I was remembering, okay, how do I normally get in touch with my heart to think of my little girl, like actually see her and like just shower her with love. Okay. And then I feel like sad, like how can you talk to her that way? And then I feel this openness of like, well, if she were my daughter, and, I am her mother, so like, I would want her to believe this, and that's how it comes. And then I also find evidence for it too. And that's how it works for me.
That sounds like a good system.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds like a great system.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Love that.
Appreciate your endorsement.
Yeah.
Doing what I'm doing there.
Go with it. Yeah. Anybody else?
I actually kind of connect a little with how you're saying, like, you feel like sometimes it's just in your head. Mm-hmm. One of my I'm not statements was I'm not connected, and then I'm not healing. But I know it, you know when you put in the effort, like connecting to your inner child, and then seeing her and being like, why would you say these things? Because that comes to me a lot as like, why would you say those things to someone you love? And then you feel the sadness, and then comes like openness and love. And I really understand what you mean. And you're like, sometimes it's just like, why is it all up here?
Yeah.
And it's not like connecting anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a lot easier to access your heart through a different space. And I understand that. I really get that.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else got anything they would like to share or ask or go ahead?
I really love the process. So mine was I forgive myself for judging myself for being too much, for what is more true, and like I scribbled some things. It's funny because the answer is a bit much. I am full of life force energy, raw, unfiltered, and fully expressed. I am a compilation of all the colors, sounds, and textures. So it like, at first I was like, when I was in the brain, just trying to figure out, I am silence. And I was trying to think about being opposite, and it was like, wait a minute, there's an elephant and there's a bird. They're two different sizes, and that's okay. And while I'm sure my being will continue to refine, I found that as I sank further down, it was like, it's okay to be big and to have a full expression of my being. And what was really cool too is I didn't know the word compilation, but I wrote it down and then I looked it up and I think I used it right? A compilation of colors, sounds, and textures. So it was cool that like this other part of my intelligence came through and showed up competently with the word compilation.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it.
Awesome.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Question. Go ahead, Karen.
I remember from somewhere in my discovering the document journey, someone making a distinction between the lines that were affirmational and aspirational. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that, because I have a little bit of confusion.
So the difference between the lines that were aspirational
and affirmational.
And can you give me some more?
I don't know if it's important.
Well, and have you some context for that personally? You can give me.
As I recall, the context of the conversation was aspirational was what you're moving into, and affirmational is what's already true of you. In the context of that, but then I'm not sure that's even needed or useful.
For me, I'm not sure because it's interesting. I was talking to Ankush about this yesterday, and I started a conversation by saying something along the lines of, I want to work a bit on my document, and what I want to do is I want to really focus in on the areas where I'm, where I'm scoring myself like a 1 out of 5, and as opposed to the areas where I think I'm like at a 3 or maybe a 4 kind of a thing, and so where I'm doing pretty good. And he said something along the lines of, what if even if you're at a 5 out of 5, you're really only still scratching the surface, So there's a sense in which it's both affirmational, the affirmation, but there is also aspirational, because for each line in my document, so I'm. Probably the best example I can give you is I in my I am that I make my let me get this right. I am that my physical fitness and strength are always high priorities for me. I am really fit. Physically, I did a VO2 max test recently, and I score in like the top 2% of people for my age on the planet, and my PTs at the end of it said to me, that's pretty good. Now, what we want to do is get you to the top 2% of the planet for people who are 20 years younger than you. So there's always that kind of idea of a mountain without a summit, and so there are areas of my document where it kind of I can kind of look at myself and kind of polish my halo a bit. Sometimes think I'm doing pretty good with that, and there's always so much more. So I think there's both in that, and there are areas. I mean, I have a line in my document that says I'm a fabulous cook. Well, I'm going to ask, Julie will give you chapter and verse on how I have a lot of work to do there, and so there's no affirmation in that one. That's very aspirational. So I think there's both, and it depends on how far you want to take each line. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Some of the lines of your document kind of stem more from like, who do I need to be? Like the ones you mentioned earlier, like I sometimes have like these one-off affirmations that'll say like, I'm this athlete, or what you said that you're working toward. Did that not come through? I forgive myself, but just more like, I want to achieve this, so who do I need to be that? I need to be that person. Like kind of an ultimate coach book. It's like telling Steve Hammond, well, who do you need to be to show up and get the job done and get the
Well, I think the line in my document about that is, I shared about how I want to do a high rocks. So that is the aspirational, but the line in my document is that my physical fitness and strength are always high priorities for me, and for me that was important because I'm 56 years old. I have it in my head that I'd like to be around for quite a while longer. I have no sign of any grandkids on the horizon. By the time they arrive, I want to be fit and healthy, and I want my 70 to 80 to be pretty good, and that's so there's an aspiration in that, and it's not so much about me being an athlete and what's coming out of my commitment to my being healthy, fit, and strong is the possibility of me competing in events. So that's kind of how that looks for me. So does that?
You have like the foundational declaration in your document that's kind of underlying the new one that emerged because it's kind of more of a goal you have.
Yeah. So I don't have a line in my document about high rocks, and there never will be. But that's something that I have my eye on that as a prize. But there's a foundational piece of fitness and strength, and that relates to health and.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. So all of your declarations did emerge from this process that we just went through.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because I'd know. I'd no high rocks in mind or any, or equivalent in mind whenever I was. There wasn't none of it was goal oriented. It all came out of judgment.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what I think I don't know who said it, but maybe Townsend or someone, just like your new consciously created document is kind of a corrective mechanism, or maybe I just kind of came up with that myself. But it's almost like contact lenses or something like it's a corrective one. It's not like you don't need to consciously create things that you already necessarily know deep in your being. Or you could see it as like there's always a higher level too, I guess too.
Well, I think for me, the document, it does consciously create a connection to myself at a deeper level. And then what becomes possible when I engage with life from that becomes what's possible shifts, what's possible changes.
Sure.
Because, okay, I mean, I'll land this one in practicality. This time last year, I was training to do a high rocks, and I developed sciatica and an Achilles tendon problem and didn't. And I've been prehabbing and working on that so that by next year I will do it.
What is High Rocks? Sorry.
It's an endurance event.
Okay. Is it in the UK? Or what?
I think it is. I don't know if it's in the States. It's all over Europe, and certainly in this is in Australia. And I'll tell you after. It's yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So what I want to try and do is kind of the process. You create your list of judgments, and then line by line, you use the process that you've just used to create the lines of your new document. And so you may start off with 10 lines and end up with 5, or you might start off with 70 lines of judgment and end up with 30 lines in your new document. It doesn't matter. You'll know when you get to a point where you've got your new document. And I suppose all I want to do is spend a few minutes here is just I suppose the cosmetics of it is what Ankush had us do was to, in order to try to sort of complete this, he had us, I only use the word tidy it up, where he had us look at all the lines and bring together sections, bring the lines together in sections that made sense for us. So I have a section in my document about me as a coach. I have a section about me as a husband and a father. I have different sections of sort of 4 or 5 lines that just make sense for me to have those together. And that probably has made it easier for me to memorize because I'm in the section about my wife and my kids, or I'm in the section about me as a coach, or I'm in the section about whatever it is. There's a number of different sections that I ended up with, and so just the next stage is just to play with the order so that it makes sense for you in terms of you've got kind of chunks of your document, and that will help it. That will make it easier for you to kind of memorize it. That's. There's not a lot more to say about that. Does that make sense, or are anybody questions about that? I don't know.
Is it kind of like your priorities?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Yeah.
My husband, with my children,
Yeah.
or family, if you want to
Yeah.
like that.
I think, yeah, and it might be a priority, or it's just, I mean, trust your intuition on that one. It's what makes sense for you. You know, what would make sense for you may not make sense for anybody else, but as long as you get it, that's what matters here. And then the little bit at the end is, and this was just the ending that Ankush gave us, was at the end of your document, instead of just stopping at the end of an I am statement, he gave us a sentence, and the sentence that he gave us was, "This is who I am, and this is who I create myself to be, and my parents named me Peter." So I'll just repeat that again, so you have that, and you don't have to use that. This is just what I used. This is who I am, and this is who I created. This is who I create myself to be, and my parents named me Peter. So I have other people that, clients who've said, well, my father named me, or my mother named me, or I want to say it this way, or I want to say it that way. It's really just about creating a sentence. Come up with a sentence that works for you. And that's the sentence that I have at the end of mine. So your process is just, and as I was said, I neglected to say again, don't forget about your listening. That level of listening that you bring to yourself. That's what will help you to see a number of things. That's what will help you to see whenever you go off track. That's what will help you to see the judgments. That's what will help you to see, whenever you're off track and you need to come back to being your document by letting go, forgiving yourself. So that level of listening is important, and know that that's always a choice. Doesn't always feel like it, but it is a choice. And so that in a nutshell is the process: bringing your listening to yourself for your judgments, to create your list of judgments, to forgive yourself for judging yourself, and creating a new list of ideas that are more true for you, that are more aligned with who you really are, and then tidy it up. And at that point, theoretically, you have a document. And what I wanted to make sure and do was not finish there, because it would be very easy to have a document which is a list of I am statements on a piece of paper or on your hard drive or on your phone, and to just gather dust. And there's nothing magical in and of the document itself. Having a document, it's not like having a charm, or that you can go and, I don't know if they do charms over here. When I was growing up, they used to have to, if you had a verruca or something on your foot, you used to go to the person that had the charm. That was out in the country where I lived, that was anyway, it's not like that. Having a document is just that. It's having a document. There's then making the commitment to be your document, and so I want to talk a little bit about that, about how you can be your document, and so this starts with, and I'm going to take you through a few things that Ankush had us do on the immersion where we created our documents. So the first thing he had us do was write it out by hand. He was like, write it out by hand. There's something about writing by hand that is different from typing. He wanted us to feel something different from keyboard work. The second thing he had us do was rewrite it using our non-dominant hand. Now, I'm left-handed and my writing is already pretty illegible. I can read it, but my right hand is so I kid you not, I probably spent the best part of 90 minutes painstakingly writing my document out using my right hand. Now, it was not legible, but I knew what I was. So these are all ideas again. You don't have to do this, but you could. This was, Ankush talked about at the time, I want you to get this, to begin to get this inside of you. And so he had us write it out with our good hand, write it out with our non-dominant hand. He then said, what you want to be doing is, as a minimum, is reading it twice a day. And his suggestion was morning and evening. He then had us, and he then, I suppose he committed us then to learning it so that we could recite it, so that we didn't have to open up our laptops or our phones to access our documents. And, so from the point that I completed my document, I was, I'm sure it was somewhere between a month and 2 months later that I had it off by heart and was in a position where I could recite it twice a day. So that's another way that you can commit to integrating your document into your new operating system into yourself. He had us then personally make 3 recordings of it, and the three versions were were all of your I am statements. So I am perfect love, I am perfect peace, and so on. He then had us record a version that was you are. You are. So you are perfect love, you are perfect peace, you are deeply filled with gratitude, but only always. And he had us record those on our phones, and he encouraged us to listen to those. The third one, Peter is. So Peter is perfect love, Peter is perfect peace. You would obviously use your name. And then then he said, share it. Tell people about your document. I don't know if you want to share the story you told us at lunchtime, Judy, about how you shared your document.
Actually, I'd love Claire to share her version of it, because she was there when I shared it at the
Share
coffee
how
shop.
that went. Yeah, that was, so there's a fun coffee shop where I live in Anthem, Arizona, just north Phoenix. And I think one of your coaches that you're in a container with, maybe Lisa, had an assignment that she shared with a number of people. And so we were waiting for coffee anyway, so she's like, why don't you mind if I share my document with some people in the coffee shop? And so we were ordering our drinks, and there were I feel like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 people behind the counter doing all different things. And so we just asked her, she asked hey, do you mind if I share my document? And they might have asked what's that? Just my truths about who I am. And yeah, sure, really open people. And so they were riveted, she shared her document. I think she had it partially memorized, so we were kind of reading it, but also sharing it. And it was just I think it was fun to have, for me, it was fun to witness her. And I hope it was fun to kind of have a friend there with you, so you don't feel like you're totally alone doing this thing that people have no idea what you're up to. So it's you have at least someone that knows what you're up to ahead of time. But I don't think you planned that ahead of time. That's just maybe you did.
No.
Yeah.
I was telling the group earlier, I was doing it for a group, and I was accountable to, I had to go back to the group to say that I did it. Crap, time's running out, I gotta do it right now. And I don't know if you remember, but the manager came out and she was crying because she had lost someone recently, and part of my document talks about the loss of my son. And it was really intense. And I haven't done it ever since.
Oh, really? Wow. I'll have to go back.
I was telling the group earlier at lunch how I need to do that.
Yeah, it's fun to do it.
So, that's a stretch for some people, and it's a possibility. I have never shared it in a coffee shop, but I've shared it with clients. I've shared it with family members. I've shared it with friends. I've shared it here. I've found context in which it makes sense for me to share it. So sharing your document can be a really powerful way for you to integrate it into yourself, because there's a sense in which, as you begin to share it with the outside world, there's some sense in which you're going public with it. And there's a sense in which once you begin to tell people that you are perfect love, you are perfect peace, or whatever your equivalent of that is, there's a little bit of accountability coming back to you, just by virtue of the fact that you're doing that you've done that. So that can be a really powerful way to integrate your document, is to share it. So I want to encourage you to think about sharing your. I don't want to encourage you to think about it. I want to really enroll you in sharing your document. The other thing that I is you can share your document. You can also talk to people about your document. You can. And talking to people about your document, we have conversations about our documents. Not all the time, but from time to time, there will be something that will come up where you will see something in me, or I will see something in you, where typically involves me not being my document or using language. It's actually our conversations are more around we'll pick each other up on language that's out of alignment with our documents, and so there's an accountability piece between us as a couple. But then there's also the potential for that in whatever network you find yourself in, and I think it's great that in this kind of community there are lots of people who are in the conversation about documents, and you could create little groups or there maybe are groups. I'm not sure what's practically available to people, but places where you can talk to people about your document in terms of here's where I'm struggling, here's what's going well, let me share a win let me share a success, let me share where this is going really well, let me share where this is a challenge. Conversations with people about your document and how it's going, that's another way to create strength to strengthen this new operating system within yourself. And the final certainly not the final, is I shared earlier on that I have recordings on my phone. I've gone to other people now, and I've gone to Julie, and I've gone to Anne Cush, and I've gone to some of my coach colleagues. I've gone to my daughter and my son and my closest friend, and I think I've 8 recordings on my phone now that actually I've a recording of myself speaking my document, and I will just sometimes just stick my earphones connected to the phone and sometimes just listen to it. And that's another way. It's me connecting myself with the language of my document more and more and more and more. And while that might seem kind of, oh, that's a lot or that's extreme, bear in mind that I spent from the ages of probably whenever 3, 4 or 5, whenever I started to form my old document until the age of 54, reinforcing that. It's what I'm doing is a fraction of what I've done. So it for me it makes perfect sense to me to be committed in having conversations and listening to it and reciting it and sharing it. That's what makes sense to me in terms of a process that builds the strength of it within me. Any questions about any of that?
How long is this? Like minute-wise, what do you say?
Between 4 and 5.
I had one that was like 10 minutes. My husband kind of was joking.
Yeah.
Like in a nice way. He kind of makes fun of me in a loving way. And I was just like,
Yeah. Depends how fast I talk, but the people that have recorded, actually, Julie's recording is 6 minutes. And my own recording of it is just over 4, and the people that have recorded it for me they're all around 4 minutes. So it just depends, But
it's easier to memorize certainly when it's shorter.
to say again.
It's easier to memorize
Oh,
when it's shorter.
yeah, and and it makes it certainly, and also if you're sharing it,
For them too.
yeah. But yeah, mine's in around 4 minutes is fine. Yeah.
I recorded mine with instrumental music playing in the background,
Oh, wow.
so I meditate to it. And then I have my husband, he's making another recording, but more like upbeat, so when I'm at the gym.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Show me how to do that. I know EPAC does that room. I still actually there is lots of software. Eric knows.
That's lovely idea. Yeah, it's great. Anybody else got any other ways in which they're integrating their document or they've heard about integrating their document that are different from what's been shared?
I also added my vision board. So I have my vision board and my document. So when I am listening to my document, I'm also looking at the vision board that I created, so I have a visual as well. And I love how you added the painting, so that's something else I want to add to it
Right.
too.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
That's how I have my clients do it as well.
Okay.
They can see it, you can visualize it, they can see it, they can hear it, and then connect once they have it here.
That's powerful. Thank you. Yeah. Eric?
I use AI tools.
With your holding the phone. Yeah, AI tools.
So
Do you want to say more?
I incorporate vision board with the AI tools, and I basically clone anybody's voice that I want to hear it in, like Robert Downey Jr., Morgan Freeman, and if anybody else wants that, let me know.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah,
So you can
so
use
using
AI
technology,
to have your
AI
document.
technology to, yeah,
Open to do mine.
yeah, I can do it.
Do we have God on there?
I mean, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, yeah. Oh, wow.
Potato, potato.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something that came to me today was to sing and dance it. And then also I get in an ice bath daily and to sing it in the ice bath as I'm like surrendering to the physical and just meditating into documents.
Well, ice bath. Wow. That's new.
I'm gonna have one line for my documents, I can go in and out.
That's
No 8-minute.
no, that's very impressive. Yeah, wow. Go ahead.
JP Morgan suggested this one, but reading your document as you are to like your spouse. Because going back to the all word one,
Yeah.
it's like what I say I am, I'm saying you are, and so it's like a way to it can actually help you embody it more when you say it to someone else.
Yeah.
It's like we're all together, we're all one.
So that would be me reading my document in the UR format to Julie. Right.
You are gratitude or whatever. Yeah. I did that for a while when I got back, and it was really powerful.
Yeah. I think there's something that I've seen recently that the UR format is it's really powerful. Since I've started listening to other people reading the recording or recorded the UR version, I find that really helpful. And I think it touches into something along the lines of what you're saying for me, that connectedness. Yeah.
Helps you get away from, I think, too, the self-consciousness, like I can't be so big. You know, like you're saying that about someone else, it helps you feel permission for us all to be that, and it's not like this, I am this and you're not.
Yeah.
That's what I found for me too.
Okay. Lovely. Okay. Judy.
Sure that, the very first time I met Steve Hardison, I got to spend a whole drive from Arizona to California with him. So we spent a good, 8 hours.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. But the very last thing that he shared with us was the recording of Amy speaking the document. I had never heard anything like that. And I was so moved to tears. And I remember when we left there, headed to the elevator, and I called Eric right away. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I did such a horrible one. And I was so convicted. And you know what he said? How much did you spend? Have you been online shopping again? Why are you calling me? So showed me I definitely had work to do. But the first time hearing that from, a wife to Steve, from Amy to Steve, wow, it was really, really powerful.
Wow.
And that was her gift to him for I believe it was their 44th anniversary.
Wow.
What a great anniversary. And he said that's his most prized gift, and he listens to it daily. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was talking to Ankush recently, and I know Steve, from what he said, listens to recordings, and so I'm assuming it's a recording of Amy like multiple times, and so one of the phrases that Ankush has started to use with me is, Peter, what's your bare minimum in terms of the number of times you're going to recite your document or the number of times you're going to listen to it? And he's kind of saying, really, reciting it twice a day, that's the bare minimum, so it's, and I think for me, it was so easy for me to get caught up in the, well, I only need to do that twice. What can I get away with? It's almost like I can play a game with myself in terms of it, as opposed to really thinking, what does real commitment to my document look like in terms of reciting it, in terms of listening to it, in terms of sharing it, in terms of having conversations, in terms of, and one of the other things that I do is, I've found huge benefit in my coaching conversations with Ankush. I talk to him all the time about my document in terms of, how can I, that line, this line, how can I be that better? And he will coach me on that. And so if you have a coach, you use your coach, assuming they know what the document's about, but you might have to, and if they don't, educate them. Maybe you can have them create a document for themselves, but in all seriousness, if you have a coach who has understanding of this, that's been brilliant for me in terms of integrating my document. So use that. And then the only other thing is that I want to touch on, and this is just more of an open conversation, is there's integrating your document, but then there is being your document, and it's until we're being our document, that's where the reality of it actually happens. I'm not particularly being my document in the context of I am a fabulous cook. I am being my document pretty well in the area of health and fitness, and I could go through it line by line, and I could say, well, yes, and okay, this is good, because I would have lots of different stories to tell you about different lines and how well or otherwise that I'm doing. But there's something about then, actually, well, what do you want to do with this document? Do you want to just have this as a nice thing to have, or do you want this? Do you want to use this as leverage to change to change the way your life looks, to change the outcomes, to actually have a document that is leveraged by love, and to leverage your outcomes in life from a place of love as opposed to judgment and fear. And so what that requires is, Judy, you said something the other night. Julie and I had the absolute pleasure of having dinner with Judy, and Judy talked about, you used a phrase, and you said it was insightful thought followed by immediate action. I think was that the inspired thought, instant action. And that was really powerful for me, because it and actually you followed up by saying that compresses time.
I'm gonna get a tattoo with that right here.
So I'm going to write that down too, actually. Inspired thought, immediate action. Inspired thought followed by immediate action compresses time. And so I thought that was really powerful, because when thought is inspired, we can trust where it's coming from. And when we act on that, what Judy said was, I just used to spend time thinking about whether to take action or not take action. And I thought it was so powerful when you shared, inspired thought. Immediate action compresses time. So you want to create outcomes in your life. If the inspired thoughts, well, if the thoughts are not in alignment with your document, they're probably not inspired. So check out, if you're having thoughts and they are aligned with your document, they are more than likely inspired. Trust them. Go be them. Take action. Try stuff out. Scare yourself a little bit. Get a tattoo.
Get a tattoo.
Go share your document in a coffee house if you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
But can I share a little bit something about that?
Please.
Because, Steve Hardison said yes to me to do the first ultimate experience, and so I kind of had this reputation of, nobody says no to her, right?
Well,
And so for a while, except for him, so he said no to me all the time. So for a while, I kind of was like, nobody says no to me, like, that's a pretty cool thing. And then what I realized, especially the last ultimate experience, everything was downloaded to me. All the speakers, this is who you're supposed to connect with and contact, and this is who's invited to speak on stage. And it was an inspired thought. And I took immediate action. I got in my car, started making phone calls. Some people, I've never talked to them before. And I just said, hey, Spirit said you're supposed to be on stage, right? And every single person said yes. And what occurred to me is not that nobody said no to me. It's that if Spirit says something to me and the other person, Spirit tells them to say yes,
Right.
Spirit's talking to Spirit. It's not human to human
Beautiful.
anymore, right? And so I just think that's so powerful. For me, I can get out of the way when I know that it's inspired. And the word inspire comes from Spirit.
Yeah.
Right? It means Spirit. So,
Yeah.
And Spirit means breath. Like,
Yeah.
it just comes through it.
Yeah.
So, and that's not for any unique individuals or special people. It's all of us. You know?
Yeah, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. And I think the process of document creation is also spirit to spirit. That process that you went through in terms of forgiving yourself for judging yourself and what's more true, I see that as inspired as well. Though for me, my document is, I didn't write it. It was inspired, and that can apply at the point of creation. It also applies when it comes to being. So when you have that inspired thought, followed by immediate action, compresses time. I'll not forget that. So thank you for that one, Judy.
Sounds cooler in your accent.
Yeah,
What
well,
is it, Judy? Inspired thought, immediate action, compresses time, followed by.
He called it compresses time. I think I said collapses time.
collapses.
Same thing.
Yeah. Judy, I want to ask, how do you know when it's inspired?
I'm sorry?
How do you know when thought is inspired?
Oh, that's a great question. When it's not mine.
Say more.
Usually asking me to do something I don't want to do. It's usually scary.
Yeah.
It usually requires me having to live my document in order to do it.
Yeah.
Like the other day, I'll just make it real for you.
Please.
I'm expanding my business and I'm opening up another studio in Gilbert, Arizona. And I had an investor, and then last minute she pulled out. So now I have all this, I have this business and I don't have the funds to get into the business. And God, who I call, who inspires, who sends me the messages, he said, write down 10 people and you need to ask them to invest. And I fought it. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ask people to invest. I'll figure it out myself. So I'm like, I'm going to control over here. I'm going to figure out another way to do it. And then time just started collapsing, and I'm, faced against deadlines, and I have to get it in a certain time. And then I just said, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I obeyed, and I reached out to the people that God told me to, and then guess what happened the next day?
You had an investor.
No. The bank said yes. And I believe it was because of the action, the obedience of the energy that was created. See, a lot of times we think, oh, if we obey it this way, it's going to happen this way in this box. No, it's just creating the action, and when that action's creating, it's going to happen somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's actually even better than what we think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
for me, it usually occurs that way. It's something that I'm resisting, something that's scary, something that I feel is bigger than what I can handle. But that's cool, right? Because now we get to step into our document to be that.
Lovely.
I don't know if that answers your question.
That's a fabulous answer. I love that. I think there's something for me in that. I'm sure there's something for everybody in that. Very powerful. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I'm almost finished here. We're possibly the potential to finish up a little bit earlier, but I suppose I just want to give everybody and anybody an opportunity just for any thoughts, closing thoughts, comments, questions, insights, what you're taking away from today, and anything at all. I just love you all to feel free just to put something into the space that would just, touch into this day in some way in terms of how it's impacted you or what you're taking away. Yeah, go ahead.
I really think that I'm gonna take away a new way to talk to myself, like a new language. I've never, I already have a way of self-talk, but with the sayings and some of the things people have said here, kind of either it's certain words or the way you say something or how you say it will grab to me, and so I've definitely come up with a new. I definitely know that I'm taking away a lot of essentially vocabulary, but it's really meaningful.
Thank you.
It will be used, so it's really cool.
Thank you. Brilliant. Yeah.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm 18. I'm being
18?
Wow.
Girlfriend, you just collapsed all kinds of time right here. Can you imagine if we all learned to play 18? Where we would be? That's incredible. My hat's off to you.
Yeah. Fabulous. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm taking away that I'm working on my self-judgments again and, reinvent my document that already is existing and then just starting to use it again.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done that
Okay.
lately.
And do you have you the resources that you need from this to go and do that now? Yeah.
That was really helpful.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Well, go create your document and
Yeah, it was
be it.
in particular great to hear that you noticed he changed, So that's so good to hear.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you and your time and everything that you, for all the hours and minutes and the accumulation of the way that you've been living this, because there's something through your being that has impacted mine in a really beautiful way, through your delivery and your gentleness and just all the beautiful parts of you. I'm also really grateful for Judy.
Yeah.
Because Spirit spoke to me yesterday. I probably had one of the worst days of my life yesterday, and then I just saw her face, and it was like, I don't want to reach out to Judy. I was laying in my bed in fetal position, just crying, and I was like, who can hold me? And then I see Judy's face, and I've never hung out with Judy. I've never we've hung out a lot, but never just solo. But through listening to that obedience, what has collapsed today, because then she invited me here, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all the ways you've always shown up for me in really beautiful, beautiful ways in my life. Thank you.
Wow. That's powerful.
See, that's what it looks like to listen, right?
Inspired thought, immediate action, collapse time. Wow. I love it. Love it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. Yeah.
I also want to acknowledge you for your time in creating this space and teaching us and being an example of this work. And it doesn't matter if you've never heard of Document before, or if you've been doing it for years. This is something that it's a mountain with no top, right? And it's something that continues to evolve. And I'm recommitting to really taking my document seriously, and not doing the bare minimum. That you never know. I might even go shout at some coffee house later. Who knows?
Who knows?
But actually, I did write that down. I'm committing to doing something really bold and just get out of my comfort zone. So
Okay.
I'll let you guys know what it is.
Please. I'd love to hear. That's fabulous. Thank you.
you.
Thanks, Judy. Yeah.
One thing I'm taking is, first I just want to say thank you for creating this. But one thing that really struck me is when you were telling your story about initially getting into the document process, that Ankush was an example for you, because you could see that something different was in process with him, and he was evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And then you said, oh, well, I guess I'll experiment with too. And what I'm taking is that each one of us is like an example for somebody, and we don't even know who it might be. It might be somebody that we're working with directly, but actually it's more likely that there's other people that we're not working with directly.
Yeah.
That you know, like, can we ever imagine the possibility that we could be an example for anybody else?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably true. If you're bold enough to start working with your inner operating system in this way, that this is what happens. I want some of what you got. What you doing? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your story about how that worked, and my ability to listen and take that in.
That's really powerful. It reminds me of I have a PT, and he's 29 years old. He went to school with my son, and whenever I started working with him, he has a phrase or statement that he uses, and when people who haven't trained before start to train, they're usually coming from an environment of people that, you know, are in their work or in their family where nobody is training, where nobody is doing what they're going to do. And the statement that he uses is, first they laugh, then they ask. People will look and laugh. And when they see you mean business, when they see you change, they will ask. They get curious. And so what you're that's for me, that's what you're speaking to is when we get committed, when we show that we mean business, when we start to change, when they start to see something that is appealing as opposed to, you know, they're having a laugh at us because, you know, I'm sure there are lots of my friends would laugh at my document, or my old school friends would laugh at my document, but they might also be curious if they see that I mean business. So yeah, I think that's the whole modeling something, and you're right. I don't think you don't know who it will be that actually sees and changes, and you may or may not ever know. But we live our lives. I mean, it was interesting. I had a message yesterday from somebody who connected with me on LinkedIn, and she sent me a voice message, and it became apparent. She said, I've been listening to your content or watching your content on socials for quite some period of time. I didn't even know the person, you know. So, and I don't know what the impact was, but it led her to reach out and send a message at some point. So, you don't know. You don't know. We don't know. So thank you for that,
Well,
Pam.
one of my worst fears has been that people will ridicule.
Yeah.
So they'll keep you quiet. You know?
Yeah. Well, they might, and they might be inspired.
Oh yeah. Well, no, just
Yeah.
acknowledging it now. Now it's out.
Put it
Y'all
out.
can laugh.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Peter, thank you. I just want to acknowledge you for your time and commitment and the love that you shared today.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm recommitting to going back to my document and the forgiveness work.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, Karen. Thank you. Yeah.
This was definitely eye-opening, for sure.
Okay.
There's a lot that I learned in how I create my documents, things that I want to go and relook at.
Great.
So it was a lot, but a lot of information I gave today, a lot of insight that I was actually unaware of
Okay.
during the whole process of creating the document.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I created my document, it was in spirit.
Mm.
So I didn't go through the whole forgiveness process.
Okay.
So today, when I started writing out the limited beliefs, I started looking at my document, and it very much aligned, but it was because I created it through spirit. But to teach others that may not know how to connect to spirit, right?
Yeah.
Some of my clients that may not be there yet, this was very insightful for me to help them on
Brilliant.
how to,
No, I love that.
right? So that was huge for me,
Yeah.
huge.
Great. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. Yeah. Good.
Just want to thank you for your courageous act of service here too, just to come in the midst of people. I don't know if you know, maybe it sounds like you know some of us, but I don't know you super well. And you invited me on Facebook, and even though I'm about to leave for an event, it's just it's a really valuable opportunity to hear from another person. Like I've heard a lot of what you shared in different ways from other coaches, but it's really impactful to hear it from your own experience. And every time you listen, it's like you're a different person and you take on a new understanding. And so I'm just approaching this now with like a beginner's mindset again as much as possible.
No, I love that.
I love how you created our listening at the beginning, but then are tying it back to like our listening to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm coming away with like even more of a sense of like my inner voice and listening to myself.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so easy to get caught. Like this is something that's like, okay, I'm listening to you, but you're calling us back home to listen to within ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to really step into more. So I appreciate the
Yeah.
time of the listening, just to be slowed down and not consuming. When we're consuming content so much, I feel like day to day it's hard to even realize what we're saying to ourselves. And so, yeah,
Great.
appreciate your perspectives.
My pleasure. Thank you. Oh, we're almost done. I actually have a small gift for each of you. I had this made last week when I was in Sedona, and I tracked down a printer, and so it's 4 sides. It's my painting, and inside is my document in the UR format. I deliberately created it in the UR format because I wanted you to hear that you are. It's you. It's you. It's not me that's going to create you. It's you. This is all about you today. So I've got my document in the UR format, and then there's a little 2 sides about why my document is the most important document in my life. And my contact details are in the bottom. I've actually got the contact details of the guy that did the art as well, because I've got some copies of this for him as well. So, but I've got this for each of you. What I'd love, in a sense, in return, well, it's not in return, this is a gift, and you don't have to do this, but I'd love your email addresses, because I'm going to, Eric's creating a recording for us, and I'd love to share that with you whenever, or share that in, well, no, did we not? I'm hopeful that I will be able to negotiate with Eric. That you'll be able to get access to that. So if I could have, if there's a page over there, if before you go, you would put your email address on that, I'd really appreciate that. I won't be bombarding you or adding you to an email list. It would be purely for this purpose. You can join my email list if you want, but that's not the purpose is to keep in touch with you about this. And yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen and Judy. One for you too, man.
got something for you too.
Thank you. Do you want one?
Yeah.
Pam,
Thank you.
thank you. So, I just want to, thank you so much, folks. I didn't know what this day was going to look like at all, but I've so enjoyed it. I've so enjoyed spending the day with you. You've been wonderful in terms of how you've showed up, how you've engaged. I'm really excited about what each of you is taking away from this in terms of how it's going to impact your recommitment to your document, how it's going to impact your clients and how you communicate, whatever way it's going to impact you. But my hope was that this would be transformational for you guys. And I still believe that is possible if you take what has been shared, and not that it's anything about me, but if you can take this and implement this, something big will change in your world. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So thank you very much for being here, and safe trip back to your home, and please leave your email address with me before you go. That would be great. Okay. So, and I'm sticking around. If any of you have questions you haven't asked, give me a shout. And my email address is on this as well. If anything, if you have questions afterwards and I can be of service to any of you with regard to anything we've talked about, please just reach out.
We can just copy yours.
Pardon?
It's already in the QR.